I'll start. Good morning. Good to see everybody. Just want to say a few words before we get into the Q&A. I don't want to sugarcoat this. From where I sit, we're in a terrible spot right now. And I can tell you, I'm angry. I know our fans are more than angry. And the whole organization's angry. And we're sick of losing. We talk about this every day, and we've got to figure out how to right the ship. We have a winning culture. You're going back to Ed Snyder. That was really instilled in all of us, and something I think about a lot lately. And when we talk about winning, it's not just a winning record. It's winning the Stanley Cup, being a contender. That's really where we want to go. That's who we want to be. As I look back to the start of the season, I had high hopes, really had high hopes. I went back and looked at some of my comments from last fall. I think Chuck made some smart moves. I think we put a really strong roster together, and, unfortunately, it didn't pan out for us. If you were to ask me what our number one challenge is today, it's injuries. It's not an excuse, but it's our reality. I can tell you I read that medical report every day and open it up and, cringe a little bit. It's last time I looked at it, we were at 10 just at the NHL level, 10 injuries. So the good news is I think some of that will come back to us. We're at the halfway point in the season. We've got some time. But I can tell you, everybody in this organization is waking up every day and really thinking about what we can do to improve this team. Chuck and I talk daily. It's been a good partnership. The front office support, the coaching staff, really all of our hockey people, we're all thinking long and hard about it. So I just want to address our fans for a second and really just say I'm sorry. You deserve so much better than what we're dealing with right now. This isn't what anybody signed up for. I can tell you we're determined to right the ship here and get it right, and looking forward to the future. So with that, I think we'll open it up to questions.
I just might add one quick thing, I guess a little bit off that topic, but I just think it's really important that, we just commend and congratulate Keith Yandel on an incredible accomplishment to play that many games in a row, particularly in that position, going back for pucks, you're getting hit, you're blocking shots. The COVID era, it's just remarkable that he was able to not only play that many games, but I think he's one of the leading scoring defensemen during that time period. So it's an incredible accomplishment, and certainly a little bit of one bright spot in a pretty tough time right now.
That was nice, and seeing Mayhew last night was another bright moment. We had a couple.
Yeah.
Chuck, two of your cornerstones, Ryan Ellis and Sean Couturier, has been kind of quiet on their injuries. Can you give specifics, and do you expect either to be able to play again this year?
Well, I think they're both, working hard. I think it could go either way with both players. There's a chance they could come back this year, and there's a chance that they will need procedures that will take them out for the rest of the season. So we're trying to do everything we can to avoid surgery in both cases. And yet, having said that, the most important thing for me, my direction to the players and to the medical staff is, at this point, we have a long road ahead of us this year. Let's get these guys right for next year, if that allows them to play. Get healthy this year and play great, but the focus has got to be on their long-term health. And speaking with the doctors and our medical people, we do not feel these injuries are career-threatening at all, but they certainly could be season-threatening, as we all have seen.
Chuck, have you had talks with Claude about potentially waiving his numbers?
I spoke with Pat Brisson yesterday. We speak 2 to 3 times a month generally. We have a few other clients of his on our roster, so I have a very good relationship with Pat, and I think a great relationship with G. I think the best way to put it, first of all, I think Bob Clark is probably the best player in franchise history. Once we get beyond Bob Clark, there's been some great players, Billy Barber, Bernie Perrant, Lindros, Simon Gagne, You can go on, Brian Propp, you can go on. And I think Claude is certainly right in that group. Eric Desjardins, I shouldn't forget him. But he's right in that group. He's one of the best Flyers to ever play. He's our captain. He's been our best player this year. Nobody cares more about the Flyers than he does. So, you know, I think we have to recognize what we're dealing with here. He's a franchise icon. His jersey's going to be in the rafters. To me, he's a Hall of Fame player. But you know, Claude has a no move trade in his contract. Ultimately, that'll be his decision. And you know, we're at the halfway point. We're 2 months to the trade deadline. So, I guess the best way to put it is that we'll continue to have conversations, and ultimately, you know, a decision will have to be made one way or the other. But you know, it'll be Claude's decision.
And a follow up on that at the deadline. Do you guys feel like you'll be in rebuild mode and looking to deal veteran guys, and do you feel that this team needs a makeover, so to speak, going forward?
Yeah, we're look, everything's on the table. We're gonna, you know, try to aggressively retool here. The trade deadline, typically, as you all know, the teams that are clearly going to make the playoffs are often looking to add guys on expiring contracts. The teams that aren't making the playoffs are, you know, have a chance maybe to add some future assets, whether they be draft picks or prospects. You do get the occasional hockey trade at the trade deadline, but you know, if we're at the 43 game mark, we have a, you know, we're right now really focused on trying to win some games and get better. You know, the math is daunting. So in view of that, if this continues, then clearly we're going to, you know, look to do what we can at the trade deadline to improve this team going forward.
Kind of as a follow-up to that, this is more to Chuck, but also to David as well. You know, kind of taking a big picture look. 3 of the last 4 seasons now for you guys, and I guess this season isn't over. There's always the chance it could turn around, but they've kind of been somewhere between disappointments and total disasters. And I guess, has it reached the point, speaking of that rebuild, where, you know, the organization acknowledges that this thing maybe doesn't necessarily have to be blown up, but that major changes have to be made into more of like a rebuilding approach? Yeah,
you know, Charlie, look, I don't think there's any question we need more top-end talent. And, you know, Claude Giroux is our best offensive hockey player. He's 34 years old. He was drafted 16 years ago. We have some good young players, and some of those young players, their career arc is still going to play out. But we do need more top-end talent. There's no question. And you know, I think we've tried to address that a bit the last few years, adding some players with some skill sets that we need, and you know, we just have to continue to chip away at that. But I do believe there's a group of players here that can constitute, you know, that could be part of a winning core. But we definitely need to add more pieces, and you know, and that'll be the focus going forward.
You talk about adding top-end talent. Is the only way to add that top-end talent, because obviously it's difficult to get those kind of guys via trade, via free agency, is the only way to get that top-end talent to bottom out and get high draft picks and rebuild in that sense?
Yeah, I mean, the easiest way to get top-end talent is through the draft. That's historically, that's been proven year after year. Bottoming out, you know, I don't think that's what we feel we need to do. I mean, you know, I do believe we have good pieces, and realistically, players like Couturier and Ellis are going to come back at some point. When they come back, we're a significantly better hockey team. You know, but we need to take advantage of the opportunities we do have in the draft. We have to look at trades, and obviously you can always supplement your roster through free agency. So, but it's, you know, look, we need more top-end talent, and the draft is the easiest way, but we're not going to trade all 20 players on our team and try to get 15 picks every year. I don't think that's the right approach.
Charlie, let me just add, too, I don't really see this as being a 3, 4, 5-year rebuild at all. I don't think Chuck does either. We have a pretty good core. I think it really starts with a healthy Coots and Hayes, Farabee. Would love to have Ellis back. We've got a core group to build on. So, you know, I think as we look at the reality of it, you know, 2, 3 pieces would be great, maybe a little more. But the core is good. We just got to get healthy. My job is to make sure Chuck's got all the resources he needs to make this a success, and he does. And I can tell you everything's on the table. We're looking at the front office. We're looking at the coaching staff, which we have been, our players, investment, whatever we need to do to improve this team. But I don't see it being a 3, 4, 5 year thing. We should get this thing right, and we should be in it next year.
Dave, with coaching, you have a guy that's in the top 10 in wins in Alain Vigneault, and he couldn't get this back on track. Mike Yo has experience. But what kind of coach are you looking for to kind of steer us back in the right direction?
I think, I'll let Chuck answer that. I think, long term we'll have a lot of good options. Right now, we feel Mike's holding a very difficult hand. I'm proud of him. He shows up positive every day, and but as we look longer, I don't know, Chuck, we've got some good options to think about longer term.
Yeah, we'll see how the rest of the season plays out, and the best time to make those decisions is in the summer, when the off season, when you're not burdened with the daily grind of games and practices, and you can sort of objectively look at what you need to do as a team. And Mike's been dealt a tough hand. He's doing the best he can, and I've actually seen progress in some areas in terms neutral zone, defensive zone. We're giving up less. Unfortunately, right now it seems like we make some egregious big mistakes at the wrong time, and right now we're not able to generate the offense to overcome those. But I've seen progress, and we're going to have an opportunity here. We only have 2 road games, I believe, between now and March 10th. We have a lot of practice days. We have opportunity to hopefully reintegrate some of the injured players back into the lineup. And as we look ahead here, the goal is to win some games the rest of the way, become stabilize here, become a better team. But I can't state enough how important the next few months will be for some of our young players. And it's just not realistic to go out, as I mentioned to Charlie earlier, to reinvent a team. You can't replace 20 players every year. And we have some young players that right now are getting an opportunity to play in the NHL, probably because of injury. We also have some young players that are in the American League. We have a couple young players, unfortunately, that are injured. But over the next 8 weeks, this is unbelievable opportunity for these players to show what they can do and to show us. And maybe some of the answers to what we're looking for are here in-house, and that's what you hope. And that'll certainly be one of the areas of focus here as we go forward.
Just for Dave. Dave, how concerned are you by the dwindling attendance, and what message do you have to the fans out there?
Yeah, I mean, Sam, it's, when you're not winning, you don't have a good product on the ice, it's going to impact attendance. So we're feeling it. I'm feeling for the fans. You've got team performance. You also got COVID protocol. I mean, Philadelphia is very tough with this vaccination, so that's impacting attendance. It's impacting the Wings. It's impacting the Sixers. It doesn't help the cause. But bottom line is we have to get better. We got to figure out how to win games.
Chuck, you just brought in a new assistant. Was there a reason that there was such a delay from when the others left to now?
Just part of the process. We spoke to some different people. We're offering an opportunity to come in and coach for the rest of the season with no promises beyond that. And so I actually am very thankful that for John Torchetti coming in, kind of, to be honest with you, helping Mike and I right now, and I think that was great. Some people aren't interested in 2-month opportunities to move away from their family with no promises. So, but it took a little bit of time, and we just gone through a stretch of 8 games in 13 days where you're literally just you're just trying to make sure you have enough time to make the right decision. But John's a lifer. This is a man I've worked with before, but he's technically very savvy. He's run power plays, run PKs, been an interim head coach. He's coached in the American League, coached in the ECHL, coached in Russia. He's done everything, and I think he'll really help Mike and the coaching staff and the players. And part of what I mentioned earlier is we have a handful of players that are in the NHL right now that maybe typically wouldn't be. And so we're also, in addition to preparing for games and trying to win games, you're also developing in the NHL, which is not a usual thing, and John's great at that area. So, we appreciate him coming in and offering to help us.
Quick follow-up to that. Is he in COVID protocol now?
Yes,
He
that's
is?
kind of
And-
sums things up right there.
It's the usual, Sam.
There's no idea when he'll, I don't know if he tested negative today or.
Yeah, we grabbed him at the airport, and 2 hours later, he was in COVID protocol. So it just, you can't make this stuff up. But anyway, yeah, hopefully he'll be a candidate to coach Saturday, but it's kind of right around that.
And you mentioned the power play. Will he run the power play?
That'll be up to Mike. Mike can address. I think he's looking at a different way, and he'll certainly lighten Mike's workload, and Daryl and Nick Schultz have done a great job too. But I just think adding one more experienced guy will really help this situation, and having a few more hands on deck.
This is for both of you as well. While you're missing some veterans with injuries or whatever, but how much do you think the lack of development by young players that you've committed lots of resources to have put you in this position where what's on the ice just can't compete?
Yeah. Well, I can't compete. Certainly right now we're not competing. I think I would argue, I think on November 20th we had about a 600 points percentage, so I don't think our process was great. I don't think we were playing the right way. To me, we didn't have the puck enough. There were certain things we wanted to change, but we were hanging around a playoff spot. So I think this team, right now, obviously everything's going wrong. I get it. It's unacceptable. We're working at that every day. But we have some good young players. I mean, sometimes young players don't develop because they're not talented enough, and sometimes they don't develop because we don't put enough resources in. I can tell you that, thanks to Dave, we doubled the size of our development staff last year, and it's a little bit like gardening. You plant seeds in the ground. It might take a year or two to see the fruits of that, but we've invested a lot of money in every area, including player development. In the last few months, we're doubling the size of our analytics department. We just named Alan McCauley director of player personnel, and we've added to our pro staff. We've added to our amateur staff. We overhauled our strength and conditioning department last summer. So this is my third full season here. We've made an awful lot of changes. In many cases, adding to the existing staff. We've massively increased our budget, and hopefully, as we go forward here, we're going to have the personnel in place to make sure that we properly develop every player that we draft.
So that's the resources. You've been here for almost 3 years now. Is the talent there?
I mean, that's a pretty broad question. Joel Farabee, absolutely, the talent's there. I mean, we can go through player by player. It's no different. When you draft, some players hit, some players don't hit, and we, as I mentioned to Charlie earlier, I think there's no question we need more top end talent. But we have a lot of good hockey players, and we have a pretty good core here, and time will tell. Look, my first draft here, and I say that just because I wasn't in the room when it happened. For a lot of these past drafts, I can tell you I've read all the reports from our scouts from 2014 on. I know what everybody felt. I know where we were right and where we were off, but I wasn't in the room when these decisions were made as to certain players when they were picked. From 2019 on, I can tell you, the first player we took was Cam York. We drafted him because we really felt we needed another puck-moving defenseman, a guy that could retrieve and help on the power play, kind of one of these modern-age, new-age defensemen. He's 21 years old. He's already making an impact on our team. Our second and third round pick from that draft are still in college. The 20 draft, 21 draft, obviously it's hard to tell. So I can tell you I believe our scouts do a hell of a job. And, I like the process we have in place, and I believe we're going to be able to find good talent going forward with the group that we have.
Dave, as a follow-up to Sam's question earlier, as Chuck and his team are going through this process of righting the ship and getting things going again, what can the organization do to try and get fans to come back and to be part of what the organization's trying to do and to be excited about it going forward?
Yeah, I mean, we have to continue to communicate with our fans, and Valerie Camillo runs the business side there, and we're trying to do everything and more. I mean, another area we're investing in, but my job again is to provide Chuck and Valerie with resources, and that's what I'm doing.
Chuck, Dave mentioned as well about the impact of injuries this season. I guess kind of going into that, there have been multiple guys, Ellis, Hayes, Broussard, Farabee, who've returned to action and then immediately or soon after get re-injured or injured in a similar way. I guess from the outside, it can look like these guys are coming back too soon. And you mentioned about the idea of kind of analyzing everything in the organization. Is there analyzing the medical staff and whether you guys are taking a wrong approach to injuries and pushing guys to return too soon that's actually hurting the team in terms of guys being out longer than they should have been otherwise?
Yeah, well, clearly we do that at the end of every season, and again, we're kind of midstream here, so it's difficult to have that full season autopsy that you normally do. A lot of the stuff we'll have to do at the end of the year. We're going, but clearly it's an area we're going to look at. We've had conversations with the doctors, and I don't know that players have come back too soon. There's been a little bit of bad luck, I guess, and a couple of these injuries are a little bit complicated where, the player feels pretty good and then gives it a try and then something can re-aggravate it. So, but look, it's been tough and you're right, there has been recurrence in a couple cases and that's something you want to avoid. So, again, as I said, everything's on the table. We're definitely going to look at it. Just in season here, there's only so much you can kind of do in the moment, but the questions are being asked, and certainly we'll dig into it as we go forward.
I guess it's kind of a follow-up, and you mentioned earlier about Couturier and Ellis about how they're kind of on the fence about surgeries. Is there like a line in the sand point of the season where you might decide that it's not even really worth it to keep pushing these guys back and just get a jump start on next season so they're fully ready?
That there's an element of that, but I think the biggest element is just what's best for the player. I mean, in a lot of cases, surgery should be the last resort. You're not rushing to have guys get surgery. If there's a way to allow the player to heal without surgery, that's what we're exploring. But ultimately, your hope is that if surgery does happen, that it doesn't impact next year. So, we're not at that point with either player, but the driving force behind everything we do right now is doing what's best for the player and trying to get them back without surgery if we can avoid it.
Chuck, you have a pretty big decision with Rasmus Ristolainen. He's a pending UFA. How do you evaluate that trade, and do you view him as a piece of the future or a piece that you could possibly move?
Well, when we traded for him, clearly I paid a big price. I recognize that. It's difficult to get physical defensemen, never mind physical right shot defensemen. There were other teams that were offering similar type of packages to ours, and we had the highest pick, so we got him. And I recognize we paid a big price. And, I mentioned to Charlie earlier, we need more top-end talent. I also think we need, some bigger, more competitive people too. You look at that game last night, and the Islanders are a big, heavy team, and we had our hands full. So, we need to do a better job of competing in that area as we go forward. And Ristolainen can certainly be part of a six-man defense core and bring an element that not a lot of people have. So, the goal when we traded for him was to keep him, and obviously he's a pending UFA, and he will control a lot of that discussion, and we'll work with his representation to see what makes sense.
Chuck, how involved is Danny Briere involved in day-to-day decision-making, I guess, and do you see him as the kind of guy who will get more involved, perhaps?
Yeah, we've had a lot of good conversations with Danny, and certainly during the process when he was interviewing with Montreal, we were communicating a lot, and Brett and I were, trying to help a bit. It was a great opportunity for Danny, but Danny, obviously he's been president of the Maine franchise. A couple of years ago in the 2020 draft, Danny looked at a lot of the potential first-rounders and worked with Brent on kind of that area we were looking at when we drafted Tyson Forster. So he's been involved then. He's been involved with player development this year. He's been on the bench with Lappy. I think moving forward here, he's going to have a much bigger role in hockey ops. He's a guy to me that great, obviously knows the game, played the game, great personality. a very good evaluator of players, and I think there's a lot he can add to our group. And again, he has been involved in a lot of the decisions. He sat in pretty much every big meeting we've had the last 2 years. So I've enjoyed working with him, and hopefully it's something that can transition to even a bigger role with us going forward.
Chuck, as a follow-up to the question Marcus asked you about talent evaluation within the organization, when you do your self-evaluations and you see what you have and you see what was here before you got here and what you have to work with, does it almost make it a little bit more challenging for you to now have to come up with creative ways to try and work on the roster because of what maybe limitations you might have with what you have?
But that's the job of every general manager. I came here, accepted this job. I knew the pluses and the minuses. Every team has them. Look, I can just tell you, I'll just go back to the drafts we've had since I've been here, and if you look at what we've tried to do, I think, Cam York, we really felt we needed another defenseman that could move the puck, and I still think that's one of the areas of our game that we need the most work on, our retrievals, our transition. We don't get out of D-zone quickly and cleanly enough for my liking, and we defend too much. And it's hard to score goals when you're defending. Cam York is a guy I think can really help in that regard. If you look after that, trying to find some creative offensive players, we drafted Bobby Brink, undersized guy, tremendous heart, competitor, hockey sense. Tyson Forster, big shot, trying to find we don't have enough shooters in my mind. Part of the reason we got Cam Atkinson, trying to find some shooter scorers instead of guys trying to make plays all the time. Thought he's a guy that could complement our group really well. And even last year with Tuomola, I traded our first-round pick, but Samu is a guy that if he hits, he's got quickness, the shot, and the offensive skill. He's got things he has to work on to play, but we've tried to add some talent, some guys that have a chance to hit, even some of our later picks. They don't. Not every player makes it, but we're trying to find talent, and I think every team in the league is trying to do that, and yet, you also need some big physical guys too. So there's a balance, but we're pursuing that. We'll continue to pursue that, and we'll continue to work with this group, and we have some good talent on our team. Kids like Farabee and Konechny, those are two of the better young forwards in the league, and lots of skills. So I'm hopeful Morgan Frost can continue to take a step. He's a young man. I think the last 3 games have probably been his best. He's still a work in progress, but coming off missing a whole year, he's a guy that has a chance to play and bring a skill set that we need. And he's one of the players that has a great opportunity here the next couple months to impress upon us and maybe be a part of the solution next year, so we don't have to buy one more player in free agency. So there's parts here that we're hopeful about, and we'll just continue to grow the group.
Dave, there's a segment of Flyers fans and alums, former players. I guess you can debate the size of the segment, but there's a segment out there that says the Flyers become too disconnected from the Ed Snyder way, so to speak, personal relationships or just the way you treat fans. Or do you sense that, feel that, heard that, and do you feel it's fair? And if it is or not, does it matter?
I feel if you talk to people inside the organization now, and I think it's been pretty stable for a couple of years now, whether it's on the business side, I've had Valerie Camillo. She's in her 4th year. She's a terrific executive. She's built a great team. Chuck's been here now just about as long, I guess about the same time. And I think if you asked anybody in hockey ops, they would say nothing's changed. Talk to the old timers, people that are still with the organization. I think if you're on the outside looking in, maybe you're hearing some things and seeing it differently. But with that said, you can always make it better. And I want it to be a family atmosphere. I don't think it's changed. I've been living it in my 9th season here, and we've just tried to build on what Ed started. And I will say this, Comcast has been the same terrific partner to me that they were to Ed. Comcast has been in this thing for 26 years, the controlling partner. So,
and Comcast is committed to keeping the Flyers?
Absolutely. It's no. We're headquartered here. We have a lot of sports content, throughout the company, and this is something that everybody gets excited about.
Dave, you made a coaching change this year to be another coach likely at the end of this year. At what point do you now look above that? Your management structure, I don't want to put you on the spot, Chuck, right here, but at what point is your commitment to the general manager and his...
Sure. I mean, right now, I mean, you know, Chuck's my guy, and we're trying to build around that, trying to strengthen his front office team as much as we can, and made a lot of positive changes that way. So I'm excited about that. I feel like I'm personally surrounded by great hockey people. You know, we've got our 4 advisors. I've got Chuck. I've got his staff, Brent Flair. I mean, we've got a deep bench of talent, you know, on the hockey ops side. So I don't feel like I'm not lacking anything at this point.
Commitment's firm there.
We'll take a few more. Chuck, you've been in the game, I think since 1993. Have you ever had a season like this, just where your team's where it is in the standings, injuries, all those things included?
Yeah, it's been a disappointing season, and again, look, we knew we were in a tough conference, and it's a tough league, but we fully expected to be a competitive team and in the playoff hunt and be a good hockey team, and we haven't been. So a lot of factors involved. Injuries are a part of it, but other teams have had injuries and been able to get through it. But it's been extremely disappointing, because I think this is probably the biggest disconnect I've ever felt between what we should be, in my opinion, and what we are. And so that obviously I'm the guy in charge. That falls on me. But right now we are where we are, and I guess just my mindset is now there's going to be opportunities to get better. And we have to take advantage of them. We can't undo what's been done. First thing is we got to find a way to win a game here. We got to take the temperature down. We got to stabilize, and we got to get a good environment back around here so we can make objective, smart decisions. And there'll be a lot of opportunities to improve the team. There'll be opportunities for young players to show what they can do. And we'll have some time here to get this back on track. But there's no question. It's I've been through tough stretches, but this is definitely the toughest thing I've ever been through, and the biggest disappointment.
Chuck, you mentioned that the injuries being an issue. The other teams have dealt with injuries. COVID was an issue for this team. Other teams are dealing with COVID. Why hasn't this team been as resilient as you would have liked to have seen? It's a good question. And again, maybe with time we'll be able to break it down and look at it. We're right in the middle of it right now, and still have half a season, and it's hard to do those types of analyses when you're midstream. But a whole host of factors, but again, we had a pretty good record around Thanksgiving, but I don't think we were playing to our ability. And from that point on, it's been a free fall really since Thanksgiving. Certainly, again, a lot of key guys out of the lineup, some other players not playing to their capabilities. It's been tough. It's been tough. Right now, this is a real tough stretch, and I think right now we have 10 forwards out between Lappy's team and our team. We're relatively healthy on defense. We don't have Ellis. We have our goalies, but we've been decimated up front, and we're struggling to score goals. I still think we should find a way to score more, but right now we're a little bit thin and certainly not generating a lot of offensive chances. But it's been a whole host of reasons, and again, it's been the biggest disappointment that I've been through in terms of where we're at right now.
Chuck, with the team basically out of the playoff picture, is it important to start bringing up some of the fans, guys, specifically Igor Zamula? Would you like to give him some experience here? And do you weigh that against benching a Yandel, who obviously just set the record?
Well, I mean, again, up front, I think we have 6 Phantom guys up here right now. On defense, I think ideally players should develop in the American League until they're ready. Igor's getting better and improving. He's still a young man that needs to get stronger, needs to get more experience, and he has a huge role for Lappy. Lappy's doing a great job with the players down there. So I think the goal is to give players a chance when they're ready for it, and you don't want to rush them. And that may happen, but at this stage, I think
we want to make sure we're rewarding and playing the right people.
Dave, you mentioned a
Sure,
couple
Chuck.
minutes ago that you straight up said Chuck's your guy. And just the fact that you're sitting up here with him, it kind of serves as an endorsement of him. I guess my question is, to you personally, why do you have confidence that Chuck is the right guy to spearhead this moving forward, especially given the way the last 2 seasons have played out?
Yeah, no, I mean, I like the way he's built this organization. I've worked with, some of the predecessors over time, and I like his style. I like his leadership. He's smart. He's collaborative. I've never seen the front office, working this well together, and again, this is my 9th season. So I like what we did going into this season. On paper, it looked really solid and good, and injuries happened. Again, no excuses for it, but it did happen. I think we had more than anybody I've seen, at least on the reports I see. We just got hit really hard with the injuries. So I think, deserves a shot to really right this thing. And I'm going to give him a blank check. We're going to get this right. I mean, whatever we need to do. Don't want to wait. I want to deal with it now. So.
Last question.
Chuck, a couple of years ago, actually for a number of years, if you looked at where national rankings of farm systems where the Flyers are usually at or right near the top, and there have been guys that have filtered up to the NHL and have been contributors.
Mm-hmm.
But in looking in terms of where things were seemingly with depth at one point and where you're at now, and injuries, there have been guys, Wade Allison, Lazinski, who've had serious injuries. But are you satisfied with where things have been development-wise over the time period since you've been here?
In terms of the player development?
In terms of player development.
Yeah, again, I thought we needed to add some more bodies, and we've again doubled the size of the staff, and I just think it's such a big role right now. There's no question we can do better in everything, and that's what we're looking to do. And I think we have good people. The people that were here were good people, but it's difficult when you have a couple people handling 30-odd players or whatever you may have on your reserve list in your developmental system. And even in the American League, we had one assistant coach. Now we have 2. Bill Downey's also taken on a bigger role. So I think the more people you have, the more players you can touch. And that's sort of, we want quality people, and I think we do have some good people. Shell Samuelson and John Riley have been here a long time. They're good development people, but there's only you can only be in one place. On the road seeing Ronnie Addard or something, then somebody else isn't getting seen. So now we're trying to get more bodies and people out there. But I think between increasing, the doubling the size of the analytics staff and doubling the size of the development staff, are going to be able to get a lot more work done in all of these areas and have a lot more information and be able to do a better job. But there's no question, it's a big challenge, but I think we're in a pretty good spot right now. We're getting better.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.